having to pay a $20,000 fine and possibly a year or so imprisonment. So I would discourage persons. I would try to dissuade the population as much as possible. Try to avoid lighting fires outdoors as much as possible during this period. But if you must, you ought to go to the nearest fire station and make an application for a fire permit. Is still only $10. Okay. Probably the legislators need to look at that as well. But it's quite easy. And what will happen is that the fire guardian or fire personnel will visit your property or wherever the fire is to be lit, and they outline guidelines for you to observe and to engage in order to safely undertake whatever process you are engaged with to light that fire.
Right.
You know?
In terms of, bushfires and so on, and a fire that may start close to home, in those cases where it's very close to home or close to electrical lines, what is the procedure? What does the fire service advise happen? Whether it's persons vacating the space or, calling immediately, what do you suggest that they do?
Well, the first thing you do, if a fire is encroaching your home, call 990. Call the fire service immediately. I would advise the fire service, usually we would advise as general guidelines, turn off all gas and electrical supplies at home, all gas and so on, and go to the kitchen, take off the gas tank, all of those things. Close all doors. People take for granted that if your home becomes involved in a fire, when the doors in your home are open, it makes a much easier way for the fire to spread throughout the home than when the door is closed. When the door is closed, it kind of assists in confining the fire to one area. So that assists, so we would advise close all doors, close all windows, that's our entry point. Block all gaps. You could use a towel where there are spaces and gaps in doors, a wet towel also, and block those exits and entrances and so on. Move all flammable curtains away from windows. Evacuate as quickly as possible, and you will advise when you do evacuate, notify a neighbor or some authority where you can be found so that we could account for you when we do get there to engage in firefighting.
Okay. All right. Now, we have seen cases where there have been, loss of homes. So you may see in the reports, 11 lose home because of fire and so on. In these cases, most times, what is the cause of the fire? Is it an electrical cause? Is it by negligence? What can you tell us about those things?
Well, Dominic, during this season, as I told you, you would have a high level of these fires occurring, right? I want you to imagine as fire officers, when you go to work for your 9 or 15-hour duty, you would probably be required to respond to 10 to 15 fires or so. And when you go to these fires and you engage in firefighting, in order for you to determine exactly what caused the fire, it will require some type of investigation.
Okay. In
circumstances, it's it is difficult for the fire officer on the scene without having done a full-out investigation to come to a conclusion as to what causes the fires. What we do know is that because the environment is very, very inviting for fires to occur, that there is the possibility of spontaneous combustion, where you have, just a piece of glass that the sun may, reflect through and magnify and cause a fire to ignite. I'm just putting out there that there are various ways that fire can be lit, whether deliberately or by an act of God or so. So the point is that we have to make preparation and expect that fires will occur. So in those circumstances, what we invite and ask people to do is regularly clean leaves and, from your gutters. Usually leaves and so on build up in your gutters, and when the dry season comes, it is very, very combustible. So fires could start there if, a loose ember from a cigarette, for example, gets there. The heat keep wood piles and other flammable materials well away and covered from your home. Keep grass and bush around your home minimal, cut it, keep it low. Establish at least approximately 10-meter trace away from any vegetation and so on that is immediately outside the perimeter of your home. And again, in case of fires, call 990 if you see anything that could occur. The point is, when you have, during the wet season, a proliferation of bush and so on growing around, when the dry season comes, that now becomes food for that fire. So what you should do is clean around the home as much as possible, keep the combustible materials away from your home and secure, so that your property remains relatively safe when the fires do occur.
Okay, thank you for those tips. And before we wrap up, if you can give us any updates on wage negotiations within the service.
Right, so as you may be aware, the wage negotiation has been placed before the courts.
Yes.
So the state has filed a dispute, right? The state having offered 4% and unwilling to negotiate any further. So we are mounting our defense. We are going to the courts, and we have prepared as much as we can, and we continue to do so. Our membership, just on Saturday we met, and our membership again stands firm in the position that we reject the 4%.
Okay.
And we have put forward as best a case as possible to convince the court. I wouldn't want to engage in too in-depth discussion.
Yes,
because
understood.
we don't want this to breach the sub judice principle that when a matter is before the court. But it is a bit saddening that the state would have filed the matter after just 3 sittings. I have sat as the negotiator for the fire service for many years, and involved in several negotiations, and this is the first time I'm seeing the process being truncated so early. It's as if there is a zealousness to place this matter before the court with the hope that the court would find favor with the state and would treat with fire officers in a manner that we may not be happy with. But nonetheless, we are preparing, and we don't want it to be said that in any event, that any eventuality would have been at the cause of the Fire Service Association being unprepared. So we are doing all that we can to rectify the situation, especially given the circumstances where fire officers are operating in less than perfect conditions, very, very deplorable conditions fire officers are operating in, risking their lives and giving up a big portion of their health to perform their duties, and now having to battle with the employer to establish that we ought to be rewarded with a little more than $200 increase in salary for a 6-year period, in fact a 9-year period, because it's 9 years since the last negotiation. So
because my next question was going to be, you mentioned how much fires you would usually have to deal with, especially in the dry season. Does the fire service have the resources to do this, both the manpower and also the utility needed to fight these fires?
You see, that question, for me to come and conclusively say that we don't have, I wouldn't say that, because as fire officers, we have to make do with what we have.
Right.
So although ideally we should have all 11 stations in the Northern Division, this morning as we rise, we know that we have only 5 stations, and 6 stations are out of compliance because there is no truck there to respond to the public.
Okay.
So we can't sit down here and say, well, we don't have the resources. We'll have to make it do. But I want you to know that is placing an enormous burden on fire officers. It is stretching fire officers, because aside from us not having the equipment that we ought to have to really be able to respond to the public, the personal protective equipment is is almost absent. It's totally short in terms of the breathing apparatus sets and so on. So what you find is that officers are breathing in smoke right through the day when we ought to have the breathing apparatus set that could allow us to enter into smoke-filled environments without having to breathe that smoke and be able to engage in firefighting and rescue persons. So those conditions, and this is happening throughout Trinidad and Tobago, Southern Division, Central Division, all of these areas, Tobago, all of these areas are subject to the same high intensity of bushfires and so on. So that without the personal protective equipment and poor working conditions, poor and defective fire trucks, fire officers are really, really in a terrible place. So I want to use this opportunity once again to call on the powers that be, that being the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, the Minister of National Security as well. We have been writing to them, we have been pleading with them to, meet with us and to, allow for us to follow up on the acquisition of breathing apparatus sets, the acquisition of trucks, the acquisition of firefighting clothing, the acquisition of health and safety measures to protect fire officers, the conditions of fire stations, the health and safety conditions in general. So we are not getting the required attention being paid to the fire service. So we are pleading. We are pleading with the authorities. At this stage, we're calling on the Prime Minister to intervene. However else we could get this issue rectified, it really needs the attention of all. We also call all members of the public to join with us, to call on your MP, call on whoever it is, to really emphasize on them that we need everybody, assistance. We need all hands on deck to really address these problems.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're going to keep in touch with you, to be able to check in on both the wage negotiations, which is before the court, and also on the improvements within the service for the fire officers as well for the public. Thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate you. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we have lots more in store for you. Stay with us.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Between 2020 and 2022, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service recorded 4,857 reports of domestic violence.
And there was a general figure that 10% of men may be abusers. When we look at the abusers, we found that some of them, it's like a scripted behavior.
Let's say my sister, I suspect she's in an abusive relationship. What are the signs that I need to look out for? Early signs.
What's Up Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Tickets are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices, like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Thank you for staying with us. For our next interview, we'll be speaking about the Little Carib Theatre, who's celebrating 75 years of theatre and the arts. And the only person who can do this well and have this conversation with us is Sonia Dumas, who's the Vice Chair of the Little Carib Theatre. Good morning, Sonia.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It is an honor to discuss the Little Carib Theatre with you. You know, that space has so much history, and we want to kind of delve a little bit into that and talk about the exhibition as well. So I guess as briefly as you could, tell us about that journey with the Little Carib Theatre, what it started as and what it is today.
Well, it was the vision of Beryl McBurney, the late great Beryl McBurney, who was one of our dance pioneers and education pioneers in terms of the arts. And it was actually started on her family property, which is where at the corner of White and Robert Street in Woodbrook. So that it started off with, I think, her passion for just presenting performances when she was even a young girl, and grew into something else when she became an adult, and she kind of converted part of the property to this performance space or presentation space. And that was in the 40s. And then in 1948, she made it quote unquote official by having the great Paul Robeson, who was still is one of the most famous concert singers of his time, who was visiting Trinidad. and she had him open this sort of, cut the ribbon to this space, which was very, very, very basic at that time. In fact, the stage ran the other way. It ran north-south. It didn't run east-west as it does now.
Okay.
Entrance was at the White Street side, and the current entrance is on the Robert Street side, so there were a lot of differences. But it was a great sort of, a very enthusiastic time about, kind of promoting our arts, our indigenous culture, even though we were still under colonial rule.
Okay. As a performer, I think it's an honor to know that you have touched the Little Carib Theatre stage. I think that there's a bit of a magic in that space. Talk to us about the performers, the shows that have passed through, over time, the legacy, persons being able to say, I have performed at Little Carib Theatre.
The Little Carib Theatre has, I would say, on one level, it has actually launched the careers or certainly been the font of inspiration to go on to do more things for many, many people in many, many different areas of the arts. So while it began as a dance theatre, and its main legacy is that of folk dance and folk traditions being presented on a stage, you have people like the group Three Canal started their Three Canal show at the Little Carib, right? So if you're talking about contemporary people, you're talking about in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of a sort of dramatic activity, theatrical activity going on with plays and so forth. And that was, it was Derek Walcott who went on to, that was in the 60s actually, Derek Walcott went on to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. He had his first sort of group set of performances under the Little Carib. When I say first, I should say he had something before that, but in the 50s. But in terms of the Little Carib, he had this other thing going. And then you have people like Mervyn de Gouges, a leading director who's produced things at the Little Carib. You had Christine Johnston of the Bagasse Company. You have Etienne Charles has done recordings there. It's really quite a diverse kind of plate, and it's a very full plate as well. We have a lot of musicians, a lot of, Chrison Joseph just had a really, really successful performance there. It was fantastic. So it's all kinds of things. It's calypso, it's dance, it's other types of music, it's drama. And again, Cecilia Salazar, she's another one. I just keep popping up with names.
Now, with the Little Carib Theatre, it's not just the arts, but it's also the educational aspect of it. And we know that there's the exhibition at NALIS. So tell us about that and, the importance of not just the public coming, but more in particular, the students coming to see this exhibition, see this history before them.
The Little Carib Theatre is on the actual curriculum of the CSEC syllabus, so that it really is something that theatre arts students at the secondary school level should try to go to see, even if it's on their own. I know the exhibition has a very short run, but if they can go to it on their own, that would be great. If their teachers can take them, that's even better, because that's very much a kind of entry point into understanding our indigenous art forms and understanding how they develop, because the Little Carib was that. Remember, the Little Carib predates Queen's Hall, Napa, Clapper, whatever other space you want to call, it predates it. So actually, it might, it predates Queen's Hall too, because Queen's Hall was in the 50s and Little Carib started in the 40s. So there you go. So it's really important, I think, and we're really happy to be able to bring this to the public for free at the National Library, and we're very grateful to the National Gas Company for their support.
Okay, and we would have come out of a pandemic, and we know we're still seeing some, traces of still being reeling out of that season. How was the theatre able to stand, through that and evolve? Over the years, it has evolved, and I know that would have been a significant point where a new set of evolution had to arise.
Yes, I like how you say stand through that and evolve, because that really is what we are still trying to struggle with, how to evolve and what business model to adopt for survival. Because remember, we're an independent theatre. It's not something that's government sponsored in its entirety. We do and hope to get in the future. We did in the past get a subvention, a small subvention, and we're hoping to get that as well. But a subvention alone is not going to cover all the costs. And because it's kind of, in my estimation, it's sort of the people's theatre, right? It's something that grew from the roots of our own culture by a woman who was tenacious, quite difficult at times, but she had a vision, right? And so I would love if it could be on a more even keel financially so that we could lower the cost of the rental fees, etc., so that we can get more young people in there, make it more of an incubating space, which has always been on one level. Post-pandemic, though, is a very kind of difficult proposition because I must say we are struggling, but we're trying our best, with what we have.
What is as it's the people's theatre, what is the message you want to drive home to people about the space, about the exhibition, about that commitment and that love for Little Carib Theatre?
I think the word that comes to mind is home. It's home. It's home for a lot of people who are in the arts. It's an intimate space. It's small. It's not very elaborate, right? It is basically a very simple black box theatre, which is what they kind of call that kind of space in the theatrical world. It has its faults. Well, I mean, come on, we know. I mean. Before it was enclosed, you used to hear dogs barking outside. There's an urban legend that says that I think Beryl threw out a chicken once or something because a chicken came clucking into one of the performances. I mean, it has all those rich little moments which are quite irritating when you're on the stage, but cute afterwards. But I think the word home, is the word that comes to me. It's coming home. It's coming to a space that's safe and welcoming and warm and full of faults, but still wonderful.
Yes. Before we wrap, just remind our viewers where and when the exhibition is taking place.
The exhibition continues at Nallis, the main library in Port of Spain, on Hart and Abercrombie Streets. I think the exact address is 23 Abercrombie Street because you enter on the Abercrombie Street side now. And it is free to the public. It has been extended. It was supposed to end on Saturday, but through sort of popular demand, we were really happy and very excited to say that it goes until this Friday, the 24th of March. So I just want to encourage everyone, and it's free. Just walk in the library and you see it. Right there in the rotunda. So I'd really, really encourage people to see it and see a little slice about theatrical history.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Sonia Dumas. We appreciate you and the work that you and the team are doing at the Little Carib Theatre. We take a short break. When we come back, we have more in store for you. Stay with us.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Thank you for staying with us. Remember when we started, I told you that the UN is celebrating a lot of days this week. So today, March 20th, is International Day of Happiness. And I don't know about you, but when I think about happiness, I think about things to eat and I think about cake and ice cream. So joining us via Zoom is our friend from Mass Caterers, Sharon Lasaldo, who is the owner of Mass Caterer, and she does these amazing cakes. And she's here to tell us about her business and how she finds joy in spreading happiness. Hi, Sharon. Welcome.
Hi, Dominique. Good morning.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So it's International Day of Happiness. And we know that, in terms of your business, you do cakes and you do all of these wonderful dessert treats. How did this start? Did you always have a passion for baking?
I love pretty stuff, I guess. And I like creating with my hands. So it comes naturally. And cake makes people happy, and today is International Day of Happiness.
Yeah.
So it's amazing people's reaction when they taste the cakes, because I sell in Savannah, and most of the time they actually get an intro to the cake before they purchase it, but via sampling. So it lights up people's face, and trust me, there's a lot of happiness happening then.
So let's backtrack a bit in terms of your journey into being an entrepreneur. This business is run by you and your mom. So tell us a bit about how the journey started and how it has been going.
Okay, well, my mom has always been into food and been doing catering since I was small.
Okay.
So we always had a kitchen that was full of pots and pans and, very hectic, because that's what basically catering and anything in food involves. But I think it's around early 2017. So she decided she wanted to do an upmarket, and I helped her organize to get into the market and everything. And I think it's from after that, and as well as doing some stuff with a friend of mine who did baking, I kind of recognized that, this is something, is artistic. It's a way to express yourself.
Yeah.
But most recently, it comes over as therapy for me. It's very the mixing of the batter and all these things. It's very calming and soothing, especially most people who are into baking will tell you they're up in the wee hours of the night, and that's typically me.
Right.
So it's quiet, and you just get into symbiotic relationship with what you're doing, and everything just comes to play. And in the morning, most of the time, there's this spectacular, fantastic cake that's finished, and everybody go ooh and ah about it.
I was going to ask you about that because your business is basically sharing happiness in these slices of cake. So I was going to ask you, for you, what does happiness look like?
Oh, I think appreciation. Yeah, that's something that isn't very much pushed these days, but appreciation sometimes changes your day, and it helps you to remember we're here for a very short while, and we need to be appreciative of everything we have. And so I think happiness is found in these small moments. Yeah, a new car is great,
right,
but driving down the foreshore and seeing a sunset on a Friday, that shows you that there's more to life. I believe as Van Gogh said, if there wasn't art, then there was, what is there to live for?
Right.
We have to look at the beautiful things that lift our mood.
Yeah. Now, in terms of your cakes and the flavors, so you have been able to master the art of including in your mixes local flavors. So you will have your fruits and you have your savory and your sweet. Tell us the importance of you using those local flavors, for your products.
Well, the thing about it is, local is definitely best in terms of where you're at as a business. A lot of the things involved in cake making are foreign, even the tools, everything, you have to import and everything. So when I get an opportunity to do something local, it's always something that I'm very happy about, because there's this added cost to things that are foreign. And when things are local, it's exotic, it's it's cultural, it's Trinidadian,
right.
For instance, this soursop cheesecake that I did, I didn't think people would have the reaction that they had, but it sold out. And they wanted more,
Yeah.
Soursop is such a unique tasting fruit, and it's incredible the reaction that it got. And then there's the passion fruit, which is, for me, I posted on my page, I'm hunting for passion fruit. Can you send me in the right direction to my followers? And and in this journey, I found kindness with strangers. That is something that I've never experienced before in my life working in the corporate world. Yeah, they had nice people and everything, but I think the genuineness of Trinidadians is something we overlook, and how amicable we are. So that's a great thing that I am experiencing.
Nice.
In every journey. There's things that stand out, and that definitely is for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about all this cake. So where can persons find your cake? Tell them exactly where you are, where they can find you on social media as well too.
Okay, well, everyone has a Facebook page. So we're on Facebook as Mass Caterers, or you could search at On The Go Catering to you if it doesn't come up. And then there's the Instagram page, which is just bright and popping at your face. It's Mass_Caterers, and I'm very interactive on it. I always reply soon and everything. Then there's the email. You can always email us at contact.masscaterers@gmail.com. And then we're on TikTok for everybody who's
nice.
On the TikTok craze. So it's mass.caterers. That's it.
Okay.
And then you can also reach us at 764-2187-689-3622. Yeah, we're always on WhatsApp, so you're gonna get a reply as soon as you message.
Right, and you also mentioned that you sell within the Savannah as well too.
Nice. Yes, I'm at the Queen's Park Savannah Friday, Saturday, Sunday. From I would say ranging from 5 to 10 in the night. So you guys could always come down and have a sample. And the reason why we give samples is that we want to ensure that you purchase something that you feel is worth the value of your money. Nice. And so there's no cheating, and there's no feeling of robbery when you reach home and you open your cake. You know once you get it before you purchase it. So and that makes people happy a lot of the time. They're like, you're giving samples? I feel like I'm in price smart.
All right. Thank you, Sharon, for joining us on this International Day of Happiness. I hope that you have a great and happy day as well.
You too, and I have to commend you because you're such a happy person, and you're very jovial. So I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you. We're spreading the happiness today. All right, we take a short break. When we come back, we have lots more in store.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Between 2020 and 2022, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service recorded 4,857 reports of domestic violence.
And there was a general figure that 10% of men may be abusers. When we look at the abusers, we found that some of them, it's like a scripted behavior.
Let's say my sister, I suspect she's in an abusive relationship. What are the signs that I need to look out for? Early signs.
What's Up Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
But if we died with Christ, we have faith that we will also live with him. We know that Christ has been raised from the dead, and he will never die again. Death no longer has power over him. He died to sin once and for all with his death, but he lives for God with his life. Join WESN as we explore the death and resurrection of Christ with He is Risen, a perspective from bearing leaders within the Christian faith. He is Risen, starting March 27th, only on WESN, the Content Capital.
Thank you for staying with us. Tomorrow, please God, is World Poetry Day. And before we get into that and all the activities that we have for tomorrow, please God, we want to check in with the National Poetry Slam team. First Citizens National Poetry Slam is on. It's happening this year. It's exciting. The auditions happened and now we're moving into the semi-finals. The theme this year, Story to Stage. And joining us to talk more about this is Atia Douglas, the First Citizens National Poetry Slam Project Manager, and Jillian Benjamin, who's the Head of Brand and Marketing Acting for Group Marketing and Communications at First Citizens. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Dominique. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So we're excited. These summies are coming up. Yes?
Definitely.
Right, good. So we know that this year the semis are going to be a part, as usual, the finals are part of the Bocas Lit Fest. And so we're happy to have back on board the Bocas Lit Fest in person and the finals at the end of it. Atia, tell us about the significance of the message. The message behind the Bocas Lit Fest this year is "What's Your Story?" And we know that the hashtag that's being used for the slam is "Story to Stage." Tell us about the theme and the significance of it.
Sure, certainly. So you are correct. We are returning to our home, which is at the closing event of the Bocas Lit Fest. And as we know, the Bocas Lit Fest is one of the leading literature organizations in Trinidad and Tobago and probably within the Caribbean, right? So it's only right that the National Poetry Slam is placed within the festival. The theme this year, "What's Your Story?" and then translating into the slam as "Story to Stage," is really important because the slam is actually going into its 11th year. And we really just want to celebrate going into that new decade. Of course, with the support of First Citizens, we've been able to boast of the largest cash prize of $50,000. But it's really coming back to the root of the thing and reminding the poets, reminding the audience that the stories are what are important coming out of the slam. We know that we get a range of topics coming out from the poets. So it's really just celebrating the poets at the stage, celebrating 10 plus years now. You know, if you think about where we started in that small auditorium at USC, and we are now filling out Little Carib Theatre, Central Bank Auditorium, Napa. So those are some big stages. So it's really reminding the poets that your voice is important. Like, even if they didn't lose it, your voice is important, your story matters. Come to the stage with your most authentic message. And, you know, and of course there's the platform, so it amplified on that platform.
Yes, nice. Ms. Benjamin, I want to speak to you about the importance of the slam and why it matters so much to First Citizens. You know, we would have just come out of a pandemic. You know, we would have been accustomed to having in-person competitions, in-person gatherings. And then, you know, we saw where the slam was being done virtually. But First Citizens maintain that commitment to the slam, to the organization, to the youth, the cause. Why is it so important to the organization, First Citizens?
So good morning, Dominique. That's a great question. It's absolutely important to us. For us, it's been a commitment for a number of years. This year, we will be celebrating our 30th anniversary. And for like a third of that, we've been committed to the First Citizens National Poetry Slam, to the great work that Bocas Lit puts out there, to the talent that comes to this national stage. Every year we go into this and we're just so enthused by the creativity, the talent, the passion, that people are literally have been telling their stories for so many years, and being that brave and authentic, to take Atia's word, says a lot for us. It speaks to youth. It speaks to development, it speaks to their education, it speaks to when you're given an opportunity, what can come out from our people. And so even pandemic or not, we felt we needed to honor that commitment. We're proud that we honor that commitment, and we're proud and pleased that Bocas found a way to make it happen despite the challenges of not being able to be in person. But because we are an entity, First Citizens is an organization that corporate social responsibility is part of our DNA. It is what we do. So it's not something that we could have dropped off because of, you know, difficult circumstances.
Right.
It is something we wanted to continue to do despite whatever else was in the circumstance, despite the pandemic. And we were so pleased to see that poets turned up in their numbers, the quality of, you know, spoken word pieces that we heard despite the pandemic, and sometimes even because of it. So it was an easy commitment for us.
Yes, I think that as well too, you know, sends a message of the importance and how necessary these spaces, right? Atia, in terms of the semi-finals that are coming up, now we know there are 2 days for semi-finals. You know, we have poets who have qualified for it, and then you have the wild card. Talk to us just about the process and what to expect at the semi-finals.
Oh gosh, to quote my media and marketing manager, it's going to be lit, right? It is going to be lit. Of course, we had about over 80 participants registering at the auditions phase, and out of that, 30 made it. We have 4 wildcards.
Okay.
And just to give some context about the wildcards, those would have been the participants who positioned at number 31 to 34. So they didn't quite make it into the semi-final round, but they have a chance to come to the semi-final, which is on March 25th and March 26th at Little Carib Theatre. They have a chance to come to that show, and they'll be split up. So it's 2 wildcards per round, and they'll be kind of vying for a spot to be judged as a semi-finalist.
Okay.
So it really comes down to the audience voting. So the audience have the opportunity to vote live at the venue, and the winner of that wildcard round will then be added to the semi-finalists to be judged. It's not automatic entry into the finals or anything. It's just a chance to be judged as a semi-finalist. So we are expecting a really action-packed show. We have seen veterans return to the stage. Of course, we have the hard hitters. We have a lot of new poets as well who have shown that they've paid attention over the years. They've come and they've proven themselves to be worthy contenders. So we expect 2 days of magnificent jam-packed poetry. The audience will not be disappointed when they come, whether it's 1 day, whether it's 2 days. Of course, we're encouraging both days.
Yes.
Tickets are available on the Bocas Lit Fest website, and it will be made available at the box office a bit later this week. But we're really looking forward to just having that space, of course, because we are returning to the live round at the semi-final stage as well. So the poets always love that live audience. You get the reaction. It's a totally different environment. So we are looking forward to a really jam-packed show.
Nice. Ms. Benjamin, to bring you in, the Bocas Lit Fest team is about telling your story, storytelling. How significant is the theme as it's being linked to your, First Citizens, to NGC as well? How significant is storytelling and telling your story to your organization?
Yeah, you would think that might be an odd space for a bank, but not for First Citizens. We live in the space of storytelling, believe it or not. We get the stories of when we finance someone's first car, or getting the opportunity to get somebody to get their own home, your first bank account. Those are stories that we live every day in what we do. And so the story of having the opportunity to go on stage, to share your story. We believe in stories. Our First Citizens, we published the story of our banking history because we've done so much in the space of trying to work with our community, with society, and placing the opportunity for storytelling. Because we're all part of the same fabric that is our culture, and our culture is made up of individual and collective stories. And so we're very pleased to be part of that. We're very pleased that that's the theme for this year, because it's really quite apt, it's really quite appropriate to get people to tell their stories.
Yes. Atia, before we wrap up, tell us where on social media persons can get more information. We know on the website, on Bocas' website, they can get the tickets. Where can they get more information? If they missed the auditions, they can go and rewatch it. Where can they find you all on social media?
Sure. So, of course, we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just at National Slam TT. One handle, and you'll find us there. Of course, you can also go to the Bocas Lit Fest Facebook and Instagram pages, and then you will get information as well on the Bocas Lit Fest website. So anywhere you can find us, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Bocas Lit Fest website, yeah?
Okay.
And I can endorse, you won't be disappointed. Fantastic.
I am looking forward to it as well. According to your team member, it will be lit. It sounds lit. All right, thank you ladies so much for joining us. We just spoke about the National Poetry Slam First Citizens National Poetry Slam competition. The semis are on this weekend. Go get your tickets, visit Bocas' website, or visit the page National Poetry Slam TT on Facebook or Instagram. We take a short break. When we come back, we have lots more in store for you. Stay with us.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN Content Capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
But if we died with Christ, we have faith that we will also live with him. We know that Christ has been raised from the dead, and he will never die again. Death no longer has power over him. He died to sin once and for all with his death, but he lives for God with his life. Join WESN as we explore the death and resurrection of Christ with He is Risen, a perspective from bearing leaders within the Christian faith. He is Risen, starting March 27th, only on WESN, the Content Capital.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, I mentioned when we now started today's program that the UN is celebrating many days this week. One of those days includes World Water Day. And to discuss this and water prevention and an upcoming conference on water loss management is the Honorable Marvin Gonzalez, Minister of Public Utilities. Thank you, Minister, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning to all your viewers. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's always a pleasure to be on WESN.
Good morning. Thank you for including us this morning. We appreciate you. All right. So we want to talk about water loss. We'll get to the conference shortly, but we want to talk about water loss and what it means for Trinidad and Tobago. Are we experiencing or seeing signs of water loss?
Of course. The issue of water loss has always been one of the key problems in the water sector in Trinidad and Tobago, affecting WASA's ability to distribute water and to get water to all of its intended customers, the various categories of customers. According to the last water balance audit, which was conducted in 2017, 2018, it was estimated that approximately 40% of the water that WASA produces is not accounted for, meaning that it cannot be measured. It may be lost as a result of various issues in the water sector, the distribution system, the issue of illegal abstraction of water, illegal customers, the high rates of consumption by commercial and corporate entities, and some other issues. For example,
So water loss, or non-revenue water as it is called, is water produced by your utility company that does not reach the intended beneficiaries or the intended customers.
Right.
And as I've said, the last data suggests that approximately 40% of that water, which amongst 100 million gallons of water per day that WASA produces, does not reach its intended beneficiaries. Now, that is not a problem that is unique to WASA. Unfortunately, WASA, in our case, WASA has a very high percentage of non-revenue water. The international benchmark is about 20%. So most utility companies, water utility companies, they aspire to have water loss percentage somewhere in the region of 15 or 20%. In the case of WASA, we're looking about 40% based on the last estimates coming out of the last water audit in 2017. And we are seeking to reduce that. And because by reducing that, it means that most of the water, or a significant portion, of the water that producers will get to communities that are served and that are unserved, and that are not served at all by the distribution grid. So it is not a problem, but most utility companies, they face that serious challenge of non-revenue water. And this conference is very key, as it is the first conference of its kind to be held in the Caribbean. And Trinidad and Tobago is very privileged to be the host country and the first country in the Caribbean to host such a conference, where over 150 practitioners, experts in the water sector will be coming to Trinidad at the Trinidad Hilton to share their experiences, to share case studies, to share some of the challenges that they face in their respective countries with our local and regional practitioners, so that the issue of non-revenue water, water loss, can be front and center as we seek to transform the Water and Sewage Authority.
Yes. Talk to us about the significance of this conference being held in the Caribbean region.
It is very significant because I will tell you what, let me give you an example and quote some figures. Trinidad and Tobago, WASA estimates that it produces approximately 236 or 240 imperial million gallons of water on a daily basis from its wells, desal water, and surface water sources all around the country. All right, which means that about 100, we have a per capita consumption. If that estimate is correct, we have a per capita consumption of 175 gallons of water per citizen. All right. Now, you compare that with Jamaica, it's 60 or 65, and Barbados is 65.
Okay.
Now, if that estimate is correct, it means then that most communities in Trinidad and Tobago, given the volume of water that WASA produces on a daily basis, most communities should really be on a 24/7 water supply, because 240 million gallons of water per day is quite a significant volume of water for our country with 1.3 or 1.4 million people. Another example that I can give is the North Oropouche Water Treatment Plant, which is a plant that is over maybe 30 years old, located in Valencia. That plant produces approximately 20 million gallons of water per day, serving just about 130,000 citizens in East Trinidad, from Manzanilla to Sangre Grande, all the way down to Five Rivers, Malabar, Maloney, La Joqueta, and those places. 20 million gallons of water per day means that every home should have access to 24/7 water supply. 20 million gallons of water is quite a lot of water.
Right.
When you look, but unfortunately, when you do the water balance, a significant portion or percentage of that water is not accounted for, meaning a lot of customers that are consuming water, they are not on WASA database. You have large companies extracting water and not paying for the water that they are actually consuming. They are large consumers of water. So you have, and then you may have leaks on your system. Your main transmission system, 42-inch pipeline, 8-inch, 6-inch pipelines may have leaks. So a significant percentage of that water is lost as a result of aging infrastructure, as a result of leaks on your distribution system. So this conference is very key because it brings international experts so that we can look at the various technologies and the various strategies in how you tackle this very pervasive problem of water loss on our distribution network. Because it is not about getting more wells. It is not about getting more surface water sources. If you do not tackle the intractable problem of not being able to track and to monitor and to account for your high level of water that is not reaching the customers, getting additional water means that your non-revenue water percentage will just exactly. So it is all about maximizing what you currently have so that you can identify the losses that you have, the significant losses that you have in your system, get the water so that you can redistribute to communities that are unserved and underserved. And it is a more financially responsible and prudent way in which you improve water supply to the country, as opposed to asking the taxpayers to fund millions and millions of dollars in changing over pipelines, in getting more wells, in rehabilitating your infrastructure. These things, yes, are very, very important where it is necessary, but maximizing what you currently have, optimizing what you currently have is very, very key and a central pillar towards ensuring that we have a sustainable water supply. As I said, it is not a problem unique to Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
But in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a very high percentage of non-revenue water loss, 40%, if we were to accept the data presented by WASA. And we are seeking to reduce that. And by reducing that, we can have access to an additional 100 million gallons of water that can become available so that we can distribute to communities that are water stretched.
Right. How do we, because I mean, you're talking about the water that we produce. So it's not a matter of lacking in production of the water. It's in terms of, boosting the management of the water loss. How can we transform the water sector in Trinidad and Tobago so that we can maximize on this?
Right. So the transformation of the water sector is a multifaceted undertaking, and it must be tackled from various angles. So over the last 2 years, we have dedicated a lot of time towards the institutional transformation of the Water and Sewage Authority to ensure that it is structured in a way from a management perspective to be able to undertake and to address some of the challenges faced by water utility companies in the modern era, climate change, and what have you. When we looked at WASA and the way in which it is structured, we, as the government, we have recognized, based on the reports that were submitted to us and all these things, that WASA is not properly structured from a governance perspective to tackle some of the myriad problems that utility companies face. So the transformation of the authority is one way in which we are tackling the problem of, not having a sustainable water supply to not only this generation, but to future generations. And very soon, I am hoping that by the end of April, we will have a new executive leadership and a new structure that will allow the utility company to tackle some of the modern challenges that utility companies face all around the world, ensuring that all of the technological advancements that other utilities companies use in the distribution of water, ensuring that your level of service is such that customers and the amount of disruption that you have on a regular basis is significantly reduced, and that customers can see and feel and experience a different level of service. The technology, we have several technologies that are available, creating a smart water network, ensuring that when you have disruptions in your system, that you are notified in real time when those disruptions occur so that you can send a response team. Hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm hearing you, yeah.
So that you can send a response team to address the problem by creating this smart water network. So in the transformation of the authority, we are ensuring that technology will also play a key role in addressing some of the problems that we have. So we would have deployed a number of sensors and telemetric devices all over WASA's infrastructure so that when you have breakage, when you have leakage, when you have disruptions in certain areas, you are notified in real time so that the authority can send repair crews to address a problem without allowing citizens to undergo weeks and months without water supply. And that is the only way in which the issue can come to the fore. They can, they will not have to call the media to complain that we haven't had water for weeks, we haven't had water for months. With some of these technological advancements and what we are deploying in the system, by the end of the year or so, we would be able, through a central command system, would be able to identify when problems occur so that you can respond to those problems in a timely manner, thereby improving and increasing the levels of service that you provide to our customers. So,
what is the timeline? What is the timeline for this to be implemented, something like this? Because it seems like a big undertaking.
It is a massive undertaking, and it is being implemented as we speak. We have already acquired over 300 data loggers, and some of those data loggers are being deployed on the system. We are presently putting together our main command system, and we will invite the media when that command center is being commissioned, hopefully by the end of next month. And in that command center, you would see the entire distribution system all across Trinidad and Tobago. The pressures being monitored, whether or not WASA is complying with the schedules in various areas around the country. And if it is not responding or complying with the schedules given, the reason why. Do you have a break on your system? Do you have a leak? Do you have a pump going down? All of these things will now be monitored in real time, so that we can send repair crews immediately to respond to the problem, so that we can reduce the impact that it is going to have on communities. Before I came in, the company was actually operating in the dark. You would only know of a water disruption in a community when people start to burn tires on the road, or when they write letters to the editor, or they call for a protest and what have you. It was literally operating in the dark. You had no clue or no avenue to determine what is happening in the various districts all across Trinidad and Tobago. It is still happening, but to a lesser extent. But as we roll out our technological and our advancements all across the distribution network, you would see these things happening on a less frequent basis, because we are now monitoring in real time what is actually happening all across Trinidad and Tobago. It is very exciting. And the $80 million loan that US loan that we've gotten from the IDB recently, a significant portion of that will be on technology. You understand? I'm creating this smart water network all across Trinidad and Tobago. But to come back to the issue of water loss, I can tell you over a year ago, WASA had a backlog of leaks of about 5,000 backlog of leaks on its system. And we tackle this problem, and we put all the resources, and we do everything to reduce this backlog. And I can tell you today, because of our relentless effort to reduce leaks on WASA's distribution or WASA system, we were able to eradicate this backlog. So currently, we have approximately 600 more leaks. They are not in the stage. We have about 600 more leaks, reported leaks on the system, and we are seeking to eradicate all of those leaks by the 24th of March, so that by the end of this month, beginning in April, we are launching a leak repair app that will allow customers to report leaks wherever they are from their mobile phones, etc. And once that leak, and it is GPS, you will have the GPS location of that leak, you will have a photograph of that leak being uploaded onto the system. The utility company not being able to respond timely because of this backlog that was preventing them from responding to those leaks in a timely manner. Now that we have eradicated the leak backlog of 5,000, the utility company will now be able to respond to every report of leak within a period of 24 to 48 hours, thereby saving millions of gallons of water that can potentially waste by not responding to your reports of leaks in a timely manner.
Right. I have one more question before we wrap, and this is to do with the rotational water schedule. Is it operating right now? I mean, ideally, we would want that persons don't have to rely on getting water once a week, twice a week only, right? Is it operating right now at optimal level? And can this be sustained in a prolonged basis? Because we have, we know that it's not the water production issue, We know that water is being produced. But is it that we have the manpower, we have the resources? Because we had issues in Freeport recently, you know, and I believe some people are still experiencing it with no water or waiting on the truck-borne water to get to them. So what can you say on that?
All right. So I have, when I became minister, I made it abundantly clear that I'm not satisfied. And as long as I'm minister, I'm going to be putting some focus on communities that have a water schedule of 24/2.
Right.
Until 1 day, 9, 1 and 7 days. I mean, it is ridiculous. And it's fortunate that we have communities in Trinidad and Tobago with so much water being produced on a daily basis. You have so many communities getting water once every 9 days, once every 7 days. Now, there are a number of reasons for that, I can tell you. When you continue to expand communities, construct homes, have more gated communities, people putting large swimming pools, putting more HDC homes and expanding the demand on your system without improving your utility infrastructure, electricity and water, increasing production because you will have more demand.
Right.
If you don't do that, at the same time you're expanding these communities, what will happen is that persons who are accustomed getting water 3 days a week or 4 days a week will eventually start getting water once a week or twice a week or once every 7 days, because the resource will now have to be shared with the expanding customer base that is, that is coming out as a result of the construction of new communities, new homes, etc.
Right.
Unfortunately, the Freeport area is one of those areas where you had a number of developments would have taken place over the years. And unfortunately, work was not done to expand and to improve water production in that particular area. And that's the reason why the Freeport wellfield certainly cannot respond to the demands. What we are doing to address the problem, currently we are drilling 3 groundwater wells. Currently, that is happening at this point. Recently, 2 weeks ago, 1 well was successfully drilled. We are going to be drilling 2 more. And under the IDB loan, we also earmarked 3 more wells. So that will be 6 wells that will come into operation in the Freeport area, thereby increasing water production to about 1.2 imperial million gallons of water per day that will now become available to the people of Freeport and environs, thereby restoring their water supply back to 24/4, 24/5, and in so many cases, 24/7. So that is the problem we are having in Freeport.
Right.
We are dealing with the problem, unfortunately, because of that rotational issue. When you have disruptions on your plant and disruptions on your main transmission line, 10-inch line, 6-inch line, it is very easy that those communities that get water once every 7 days, they can go for 2 weeks because they would have missed that rotation as a result of disruption on their transmission line or disruption at the plant. So there were a number of disruptions in the Freeport area that impacted the water supply, and thereby WASA could not have responded to the schedules. But my information is that the lines were repaired, the water treatment plant, the issue there was stabilized, was repaired, and most of the communities would have returned to their schedule.
Okay.
But given the program of works that we have already started in the Freeport area, I am confident that all of these communities in the Freeport area, 23,000 citizens, in 2 or 3 months from today, will start seeing not only a stabilization in their water supply, they will start experiencing an improvement in their water supply because we are going to be drilling 6 groundwater wells, increasing water production to 1 million gallons. And we are doing the same thing in Sangre Grande. We're using the same approach in Icacas and the same approach in Mayaro because the issues are very much similar, where your demand and supply, there is a disparity, and we are looking to increase production so that your demand and supply could be on par and citizens can experience an improvement. But our focus is really on communities, just like in Freeport, to ensure that we remove every single community from a water supply of once every 7 days and bring most, if not all communities, to a minimum of 24/3, 3 days a week, or 24/4, 4 days a week. That's the strategy.
All right. Thank you, Minister, for joining us and sharing with us this morning. All the best for the conference. We'll definitely keep in touch to check in on the deliverables and all that is supposed to take place within the transformation of the water sector here in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for staying with us for AM Prime this morning. We appreciate you. Have a great day and happy International Happiness Day. All right.
WESN